Well, thank you for coming in, taking the time out. I know how busy you are. Really appreciate you doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. I think it's a good thing to share. Start from this Google Doc, which
Okay.
is at the top posted as a resource. And so everybody in my class has access to this folder on my Google Drive. That's a key part of this. And
Okay.
managing access is one of the things that I found a little bit challenging.
I can
So,
imagine. Yes.
because for me, it makes sense to keep all of my coursework in one place.
Okay.
But sometimes solutions are not what students should have access to, only, initial assignments.
Exactly. Can't have it all.
Yeah, so and depending on how you use the share button, I believe is where you choose to give view privileges, comment privileges, or edit privileges.
Correct.
And a lot of their documents that I gave them, they had comment privileges, which I found really helpful because they would fix little typos sometimes. Or if I left a word out in a question, they could clarify that quickly. So they always had the ability to comment, and then they could suggest an edit, and I could just, use that. So I found that to be an unintended benefit of using this. I basically created an agenda for each day so they could always kind of see what we were doing. And you'll see it starts with, kind of the main things I plan to do. And then I think at the end of every section, there should be Zoom breakout room example. Or usually it's probably an assignment or activity. This may have been the first week where I was introducing them to this process. Sometimes I had pre-assigned groups. A lot of the times I just did, break out into random groups.
So basically what you're doing is sharing the class goals and organization with the students and then allowing them to contribute and comment. Am I correct on that?
Their contribution is only in the form of a comment. So they can't
Okay.
undo something I've put there. They can't really add if they can add it as a comment. And then I say, yes, this makes sense. Let's add it.
So you're getting a lot of good student feedback that way, and you're still maintaining the integrity of the document.
I think so. A lot is a relative term.
You're getting some student feedback. Okay.
Right. So here you see somebody made a comment. Is it possible to write an if-else statement? Right. So he asked the question directly in my document based on the notes I had gone through. So that's part of just sharing Google Docs with them. Then we have, let's see, this is day 14. This is kind of like a high level view of notes. I probably opened the database software application that we were using and did some examples with them.
Okay.
And then we go to the Zoom activity. And on day 14, this link, see example solutions, would not have been here. They just get directed to do these things. So in this case, I have 9 different questions. So then I kind of say, here are your questions. I'm going to break you out into groups. Go ahead and get working. So I'm going to click on the example solutions link because it gets me also to their workspace. So in my Google Drive, which I can show you the organization later if that's of interest to you, I'm going to turn my Wi-Fi off. Sometimes my hardwired connection is a little better. Okay, so I did end up going into a few different folders you can see here from my lesson learned about sharing things.
Okay.
So I have the 360 student content, and then we had a folder, and you can see here there's some different privileges between who has access to Zoom breakout rooms and whether they have access to folders. So the only folder they have access to is the Zoom breakout room folder. Everything else was access on a document level.
Okay.
Go to day 14, since that's what I was talking about earlier. So in the beginning, I had to make a day folder and then direct students to that folder. But they picked up on that pretty quickly. So when I said Zoom activity, they would jump into the folder for Zoom activities. If there wasn't a day folder, somebody would create one, and then they each create a document for the room. So in this case, I had students broken out into 4 rooms. And this isn't graded. It's not even really checked from a full completion standpoint. It's just like, go and try this as a group, talk about it, see how it works.
So they would all collaborate then on the answer?
Yep. And you probably know this, if there's a bunch of people on this document, up here it shows me who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see if Susie's on the document or Jane is on the document, right? I can see who's actively has this open, which was helpful because sometimes I would say, hey, Susie, are you lost? You know where the document is? I don't see you there, right? So you kind of have this secret spying option, but I can see them as they're typing. And so I would do something like this and say, this doesn't look quite right. Are you sure it was less than 1,000? So, assuming they had,
Right.
then I just hit comment. It pops up for them instantly. And I would often see them jump right back up to here. Oh, she wrote something. And they would start changing it. Usually I would try and, push them down the right path. But sometimes they would then use the ask for help button in a breakout room and say, hey, put this comment on our document. We're not sure what you mean. And then I would, facilitate more discussion.
Right.
But
right.
one of the reasons I found it helpful was I didn't have to move into their space and interrupt. So their flow of conversation could continue until someone saw my comment, as opposed to in the beginning, I would just kind of jump in and say, hey, how's it going? And you can tell sometimes I disrupted their conversation or their collaboration. So I felt like this was a slightly more subtle way to, one, make sure they're doing something and also check what they're doing and hopefully they're going in the right direction, but preemptively get to kind of stop them from going too far down the wrong path.
Yeah, so you're guiding as well as observing and commenting. So you're approaching them on a couple of different communication levels.
That was the goal. So, and then I could go into, so you can see, I don't know, you might have to edit those out of the video, but each person who created this document. So at this point, somebody in their group takes the initiative to create the document. And then I can look for each room and I can make comparisons from 1 and 2. And then I can say, okay, look, everybody got number 3 wrong. Clearly we've missed something here. And then I would, usually I would have my solutions prepared ahead of time. And I'd say, here are some example solutions. But since I've kind of been spying, for lack of a better word, on them while they're working, it would allow me to say, wow, I didn't think of doing it that way. Let me grab this query right here and see if it works. And oh my gosh, it does work. So then I could update my solutions and say, I have this one and one of your groups did this. Or I could jump into a room document and say, hey, could you guys explain what you did here? So they could sometimes kind of share their approach with other people.
Sounds pretty interesting. And
then
you were happy with it?
Yeah, I think they liked it. For the most part, I think people really appreciated the breakout rooms and the kind of forced interaction. I was really surprised. I try in my introductory to programming classes, which I agree, this is not that class, to try and get them to work together in the classroom. Like, you have the same assignment, you're both going to write code, but let's kind of just talk about your code and plan your approach before writing code. It doesn't go well. They don't talk. They kind of do their own thing because they're sitting at their own computer. And here they had one document and that was it. They all had to be in that document. And I actually felt like it encouraged and enhanced the communication and collaboration between students. It might have been because it was more forced, but I certainly thought that was a benefit. I would always try and make sure after the Zoom activity, we came back together as a large group and we could review solutions. I could answer any questions or highlight anything they should be paying attention to. And then I would take, usually right after class or that evening, take my examples and put them into the Google Docs. So if you missed class, you can see 4 different groups work and you can see example solutions. Don't really have the opportunity to collaborate in a synchronous manner unless, of course, you could find somebody else that wanted to meet with you. But I feel like you still can try the questions on your own and compare and contrast some of your work with the examples.
Sounds very good. So this is something you both recommend and might be doing again or modifying and doing again?
Definitely. And my research group did our own summer institute for, I think we had 19 local K through 5 teachers.
Oh, wow.
And we used a very similar approach. That's on Google Slides, and I would be happy to show you an example of that if you want to see it. It's a little bit more visual and interactive.
Sure, let's take a peek if you got time.
Yeah, things I was not prepared to do, but I'll find in a moment. Let's see, gotta get to the right folder. So we would, this would be their activity. They're supposed to be engaging somehow during this activity. So the first slide gives them an overview of what they're going to be doing. So this was an example where people were going to be planning a trip as a group. And then here I would assign breakout rooms, slide numbers. And so the blue group goes on slide 6, we'll say. Here we have more details about kind of the flow. So you do steps 1, 2, and 3 first. You have a time to be finished by. Then you do something else, the next steps in that chunk of time. So we've kind of chunked it into different pieces where different people are interacting. But then you give them each a space to do things. And so each group here had a different slide. The colors of the slide here are meaningful. So the blue group, the yellow group, the orange group, and the purple group. And we use this to help people use Google Slides in this way.
A little built-in tutorial then.
Yeah, and so it tells you, you can add a text box, you can change colors, because for us, not all elementary school teachers are very comfortable with Google, and so we thought it was important to kind of give them this introduction to how to contribute on a slide in a way that doesn't just have to be black and white text. And then we actually made some kind of Post-it-like notes here that you could copy and paste.
Fun.
So that if, creating a Post-it note was kind of a barrier for me because it's not something I know how to do well, I just go down here, I copy it, and I bring it back up to the slide I want, I paste it there, and then I type my contribution. Elementary teachers call this chalk talk, I think. So the idea is a student says something, you write it on the board. Student says something, you write it on the board. And so here you kind of have each student put their chalk talk message up there. So I think that's kind of the other option as compared to the traditional Google Doc, which the Google Doc I find helpful for, like, if you have a worksheet or a set of questions you want to ask. This, it's obviously a little bit more artistic. It just looks nicer and more fun, and gets people still collaborating into a shared document where multiple people have, can put their part in.
Most impressive.
When I'm in screen share and I have my video on, Google Docs is slow.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to shut my video off real quick.
Okay.
And open a new presentation, and I want to see if it loads a little faster, because I think that was something I learned. Yeah, so instant loading.
Okay. So turning off your video is a useful way to speed up your screen sharing.
Yeah, I can, that was something I guess somehow we figured that out early on. If I have video and screen share on, the lag was pretty significant. So I would usually start class by saying hello, and then, okay, like, we're gonna look at my screen now. And I explained to them why I was doing that, because it sped up the process.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for coming in, especially with everything going on. I wish you the best with your paper, and have an excellent term. We look forward to hearing more from you.
You're welcome. Thank you for doing this. I think it's a great opportunity for people to share different techniques.
Thank you much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.